Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 21 Hats podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Feldman. If you've been listening to this podcast, you know that I've been having weekly conversations with 5 business owners, tracking their entrepreneurial journeys, especially in light of the pandemic crisis they are all now confronting. We recorded this episode at noon Eastern Time on Friday, April 10th, with this week's 21 Hats podcast lineup, including Jay Goltz, who has several businesses in Chicago, a picture frame shop, artist frame service, and a home furnishing store, Jason Home. William Vanderbloemen, who is founder and CEO of Vanderbloemen Search Group, a recruiting firm that specializes in working with churches and other faith-based organizations. And Laura Zander, who is co-founder and CEO of Jimmy Bean's Wool, a digital version of a neighborhood yarn shop that is based in Reno, Nevada. As usual, I started the episode by asking each owner for a quick update. All 3 have been working hard on their applications for the SBA-backed Paycheck Protection Program loans. But it was William who surprised us all by revealing that not only had his application been approved, but the money had already been wired into his bank account. Hence the title of this episode, The Money's in the Bank. Stunned, both Laura and Jay said William's success must have involved divine intervention, but William suggested a different theory. After that conversation, we moved into a discussion of which businesses are most likely to survive the crisis, and Jay offered up something of a 5-point crisis stress test. 5 questions that may help you determine how well positioned your own business is to survive this crisis. It may even help you start thinking about what we can learn from this crisis to prepare for the next one, because we all know there will be a next one. If you find value in this conversation, please know that 21 Hats is struggling with the crisis too. If you know a friend who might benefit from this episode, please share it. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Review us and rate us. It makes a big difference. We are also doing weekly live webinars now, the 21 Hats War Room, Thursdays at 2 Eastern Time, where you can get your questions answered by experts we've chosen to help you navigate the crisis. You can find out who the guest is each week by subscribing to our daily newsletter, the 21 Hats Morning Report. You can do that at 21hats.com. You can also contact me with any questions or suggestions you might have. My email address is lfeldman@21hats.com. Before we get started, I'm here with Adam Whitty, who is the founder and CEO of Advantage Forbes Books, which helps entrepreneurs write and publish their own books. Adam, I know you think all entrepreneurs should consider writing a book. Why is that?
A book is the most powerful marketing tool in the world. It's a way for you to share your story and your company's story without anyone ever feeling like they are being sold to. It builds authority, it builds credibility, it builds expertise for you and your business.
Adam, we're recording this in the middle of this unprecedented crisis. Is now a good time to write a book?
Believe it or not, Lauren, I would argue now is a better time probably than ever before. Entrepreneurs and business owners have an unprecedented amount of time on their calendar that, quite frankly, they did not think that they would have. We are working with entrepreneurs all over the world who are using this unexpected downtime to create an asset for their business that will pay dividends for the rest of their career.
If someone does write a book, how will they know if it's effective as a marketing tool?
They use a book as a sleuth marketing tool to generate new customers, to advertise their business, and ultimately to help convert prospects into customers. And for many entrepreneurs, a customer can be worth hundreds, thousands, even tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so one new customer into your business can more than pay for the book. Speaking opportunities, PR and media opportunities, those are some of the other benefits.
I know a lot of entrepreneurs who've wanted to write a book and have never quite gotten around to it. How do you help somebody in that situation?
We do our best to make it as easy and painless as possible. And we do that by first pairing you with a master book planner who spends some time interviewing you, and those interviews turn into a blueprint for your book. Then we assign a ghostwriter to work with you to ask you questions about that master book plan, to interview you. It's all done over the phone, Lauren, so it's super easy. Those interviews are then ultimately turned by the ghostwriter into the manuscript of your book.
If someone wants to learn more, where should they go?
We have a free copy of my best-selling book titled Book the Business, and we're offering a discovery consultation to any 21 Hats subscriber that wants to learn more. AdvantageFamily.com/21 Hats.
You heard him. Go to AdvantageFamily.com/21 Hats to get Adam's book and to sign up for your consultation. Now, back to the show. All right, let's get started. I'm curious if all of you have gone ahead and applied for CARES Act loans. Let's start with you, William. I don't know of any business owner who's done more to investigate and figure out how this whole thing works than you and your team have. You've shared that information with a lot of people, but how's it working out for you? Did you get your application in?
Well, we put our application in, Lauren, and, austerity's in place in our house. There's no wine or beer during the week. Otherwise, I'll gain the COVID-19. And I don't want that. So when Friday rolls around, it's like, yes, okay, made it to Friday. So I get to 5 o'clock and I make Adrian a cocktail and I make mine. And then I get a voicemail from my banker saying, please call me as soon as possible. And I'm like, oh my gosh, really? Really? And so I called her and she said, I just wanted you to know you guys are the first organization in all of our bank nationwide to be approved for PPP. So I'm like, okay, that was worth it. That's fine. Within 48 hours, we were funded. So the money's in my bank.
What?
Oh, you really are close to God. Oh my God, I'm going to start going to church. Okay, this is it.
I'm converted.
You've convinced me. Yeah, exactly.
William, how do you explain this? Why do you think you were successful?
I don't know.
They don't want to mess with the guy with God. It's obvious.
I don't know. Dumb luck. There's a story in the New Testament that Jesus tells where he says there was this widow who kept coming to court and she just kept bugging the judge over and over and over, and finally wore the judge out by coming to him over and over and over. And he said, just give her what she wants. And that might have been a little bit of our COO is so good and just kind of bulldogged it and called over and over and over. And, we're providing this resource to a whole lot of people. Our bank knew about it. So I don't know where the lines fell in pleasant places for us. And it worked out. And we've actually heard I heard of a church with about 25 members yesterday that got funded. So it's happening.
Did you get as much money as you were anticipating?
Yeah, every dollar.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, we created a little calculator on that. I think we've overplayed it, but churchcovid19.com, there's a little
I've used
enter
it.
your payroll and it'll tell you what. And that's what we used. So maybe we could have squeezed some more money out, but we didn't. And Adrian's dad, my father-in-law, was in politics for a long time. And he told me as soon as this CARES Act went through, he said, be sure you're first in line. Because once it starts, it's a feeding frenzy. And he said, I know this is different than anything else, but so we got a little rabid about it. And I don't want to take credit. Our bank gets a lot of credit.
What bank do you use?
BBVA.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
A lot of people, even if they've gotten it through their bank, they've then run into a wall at the SBA. Did you have to do anything with the SBA?
No. Now we applied. There's I forget the name of the other act with the interruption of business stuff that you can do straight through the SBA, which I think is about
EIDL, I think.
Yeah, that's it. Where they credit the first 10,000 to you. We have applied for that. We have not heard anything about that, but I'm not uber concerned about that. I understood that would take a while.
How about you, Jay? When we spoke last Friday, you felt you had all your ducks in a row and the application was ready to go. Where do you stand?
Well, there might be some irony here. I was with the smallish business bank in Chicago that got swallowed up by the bigger bank from Ohio, not a Chase size, but much bigger. And I thought, great, here we go again, because I've already seen this movie. Well, maybe I'm better off with them because he claims that I'm number 3 on the list, on his list. He's trying to hold on to my account because he knows I'm not happy with the whole merger. And maybe being at a bigger bank now will help. I don't know, but he claims we're number 3.
Number 3 on the list to be approved by the bank?
Literally, like half the bankers left the bank after the merger, and he stayed around, and I'm number 3 on his list.
Supposedly they've been approving these loans for a week. Why would you still be number 3? What's keeping you from approval? Do you know?
I don't know. I mean, that's like asking me why the sky's blue. I have no idea. And frankly, my CFO is dealing with it. I'm dealing with other stuff, but I wish we had video for this because while William was talking, my mouth was hanging down the whole time that you actually have money in the bank.
Oh my God, me too. Yeah.
Just like, did the Easter Bunny come by too today? Is he outside? I'm flabbergasted, but I'm hopeful that it's going to go through. I'm hopeful, but I'm not counting on it. So we'll see.
How about you, Laura? A lot of the people applying for these loans are truly desperate from what you've told us. You're not as desperate. Your sales of yarn online, I gather, have continued to hold up, but you've gone ahead and applied for the loan?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I use US Bank, and they didn't have the application process ready until Sunday morning. So I put everything in Sunday morning, and then every day they send an email saying, it hasn't changed. You're still in step 2 of 7. So they've done a good job of kind of communicating regularly and have really laid it out. And I was bugging our banker probably 4 times a day. I used Williams' calculator. I've been following everything that Williams been doing, studying it. In fact, I've been putting together a selection of resources per William to share with the knitting community and all the different yarn shops. But yeah, no, I haven't. We're still just waiting. So I'm with Jay. I mean, I'm hopeful, but I don't know that it's going to make a difference. And yeah, yarn sales are good. So, the 2 businesses that we have, one of them is doing well and the other one is, losing lots of money every week. So the one is covering the other one for right now.
And is that why you decided to apply for the loan, I assume?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because I don't know when this is going to fall out. I mean, right now things are going well. People are knitting a ton. People are buying a lot of toilet paper. It's the same kind of thing. But at what point does the bottom fall out? So I'm a little worried that we're going to have a delayed reaction. So we are trying to just do what we can, push as hard as we can, save as much as we can to be prepared for when the bottom falls out for us.
I mean, the interesting question is, did you steal from future sales now, or are they just going to knit more stuff? It is possible that people will just knit more, or it's possible they just load it up on the supplies and you're going to see a drop later. Who knows?
That's the thing. I mean, and we just want to be smart about it, and be prepared for whichever way it goes.
William, do you have any advice for Jay or Laura?
Lauren, I'm just a recovering preacher. I'm still learning how to do business. And I'm sure you guys have used the same bank for a while, but I'm loyal to a fault. It was Compass Bank, which then became BBVA, and there was some pain in that. But we stayed with them. We do our personal with them. We've done every penny of every business we've ever done with them. And, as a result, we have a person that works with us. And I think that the relational equity that we built over a long time kind of got us to a little farther in the front of the queue. And where I've heard trouble for some churches is if you dig a little deeper and say, why are you not getting anywhere? They've bounced from bank to bank every year to get 1/8 of a point here or whatever the thing is. And it's like, it's like frequent flyer programs. I'm embarrassed how well United treats me, but it's because I only use them. So I don't know if that's a transferable principle, but it's part of the equation for us.
I need to step in on that because I've been to 10 banks over 42 years. Some I was with 8 years, 10 years. Some I was with for a year, 2 years. I'm sure in your case that was helpful, but I don't want anyone listening to believe that if they stick with the same bank for years, they're going to take care of them, because that is absolutely not always the case. If you're at the wrong bank, meaning they're really not a small business bank, you're naive to think that, I've had my car loan there for years. I've had my checking account there since I was 20 years old. If they're the wrong bank and they're not a business bank, it doesn't matter. So you happen to be at the right bank and you stuck with it at work. But there's lots of people that are at banks that really are not small business banks. And at the end of the day, I don't care how many years you've been there, they're not giving you a business loan because they just don't do that stuff.
In your case, Jay, I think your situation was you thought you were at the right bank, but then it got taken over and it became the wrong bank.
Yes, I was at the small business bank. So here's my advice about banking. Banks need 2 out of 3 things. They either need big business, they need retail business, or they need small business. But you're hard pressed to find a bank that does all 3. So the gigantic banks of the world have banks on every corner. They're doing tons of business with mortgages, with car loans, blah, blah, blah. They don't really need the small business community, which is why all these other banks exist. And the small business banks usually don't have banks on every corner and don't do business with the big. So it's 2 out of 3. So I was at the smaller bank that was designed to take care of small business, and they got bought out by a much bigger bank. but it still is a business bank. So it might be okay. And like I said, the guy's paying attention and he's calling us. There's a tip. The guy called me. I'm not calling him. He's following up with us. So I feel like we're in the queue. I will be disappointed if I don't have the money in a couple of weeks, but I certainly am not expecting it this week. And I haven't signed any documents. So I know the process isn't done because I have to DocuSign something and he hasn't sent it over to me yet. So I know it's still not officially in.
We've had US Bank for probably 15 years now. We went there from Wells Fargo. And I think the fact that we're in a small town helps, even though it's a large national bank. I mean, the guy that I work with, I mean, he comes and visits. I can email him anytime. It's so personal.
Do you borrow money from them?
No, we just did.
Matter. No, but my point is,
for the very first time.
If you never borrow money from a bank, that's like saying I've got a great insurance company, but I've never been in an accident. If you've never borrowed money from the bank, you have no idea. That's why I say people are naive. They think because they've been at a bank for years, it's going to take care of them. And when it comes to the business loan, some of these banks just don't do it. They really don't.
Okay. I mean, we had a line of credit for quite a while, but I see what you're saying.
Okay, next topic. We've heard your stories the last few weeks. We know that each of your businesses has, to say the least, taken a hit. I'm wondering, have you thought about what it would take to actually put you out of business? And I'm asking this in part because I'm curious about what makes a company well positioned to make it through a crisis like this, and I'm wondering what we can learn from this. Jay, let me start with you. Have you thought about what it would take to actually end your business?
Yeah. And, remember, I've lived through 4 recessions, September 11th, the whole thing. This is worse in some degree in the short term. And after I got over I'd say 2 days of just shock, I started saying to myself, okay, let's go through this. So number one, I've got a strong customer base that loves my businesses. My framing business in Chicago is literally 20 times the size of the national average, and I probably have 30% of the market share in Chicago. And then my retail, my furniture store, same story, and my wholesale. So I've got a strong thing. And number two, it's about legal exposure. I don't have partners. I don't have investors. I don't really have a landlord. So it's not like I get a call tomorrow and go, that's it. We want you out. I want you to sell the inventory. That's a huge deal. And that was by design. I never want to be in a position that some partner I've got who's living in Boca Raton now, who's 73, calls up screaming, I want my money back, close the business down. So, and then
let me stop you there. We'll come back to you, but you just made a couple of interesting points. William, how about you? Have you thought about what it would take for you to actually go out of business in this situation?
Oh, sure. I mean, not more than 365 times a year, but probably seen it. The entrepreneur's journey and a daily journey is like, I'm awesome. I suck. We're doing great. We're going to close. I don't know how, as a small business owner, you don't go through that. I do think for me, I have found where my checks and balances are to see when I'm out of touch with reality and in touch. And, Adrienne and I balance really, really well. She's usually the realist and I'm the idealist. When I start to go through the paranoid tailspin of here it is, this is it, we're closing up shop, we're done. I'll gut check with her, and in this instance, she's been very clear to say, no way, the business will come back. Now, how we lead through this could end the business.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, so I read a really interesting article. It was Harvard Business Review, and it was a study, large quantitative study of businesses that bounced back after the 2008 recession, and whether they were aggressive in cutting costs or aggressive in investing in more
marketing.
Exactly.
We linked to that story in the 21 Hats Morning Report.
Maybe that's where
I read it too.
Great article. So what I took away, if you cut too aggressively, you're more likely to fail than anybody. However, if you're too aggressive and bullish about just pushing forward at all costs, you're also second likely to fail. And it's in the middle there of walking this tightrope that really determined who made it and who didn't. And I think that's what we're trying to do. That's part of, last week's podcast was the day after we reduced payroll by 40%. We could have reduced it more. We didn't. And that reduction was a combination of layoffs, furloughs, and payroll reduction, beginning with my salary going away. But that was pretty severe, but we could have been more severe. So the market, unless churches can't gather anymore, and unless schools can't have school anymore, and unless nonprofits go off the market, they will need top leadership. And some people might say, well, in a recession, when everybody's looking for a job, why do I need to search for them? Well, actually, it's trickier then to figure out who really needs a job and who wants this job. So I'm not concerned about the necessity for my type of work. The market, I don't think, will go away. How I lead through this crisis will determine our viability in the long term. And I'm looking for checks and balances where I'm not being irrationally panicked or irrationally aggressive. And I've tried to surround myself with a leadership team, and it's a very small team, but I'm incessant with them about saying, you have to tell me the truth. I'm trying, Lauren, to not be the reason that our business ends. It won't be because of my team members. They're amazing. It won't be because the market collapses. That'll still be there.
Are there other people who do what you do?
Well, before COVID, we had a few people that were trying. After COVID, I'll be interested to see how many are still standing.
I'm curious, William, real quick, you keep saying your leadership. Is it because are you not treating your team well? Are you not, what are you worried that you're going to do wrong?
Cut too fast.
Okay.
Or fail to jump on opportunity.
You're worried that you're going to either be too impulsive or not
exactly
impulsive enough. Okay.
It's the tightrope of when do I expand and when do I be cost conscious.
It's the Bosu ball. I'm like, this is why I'm so glad I've been doing yoga, because it is literally it's surfing.
Yeah.
Right. If you lean too far on one side, you fall. If you lean too far on the other, you fall.
The other external circumstances, is somebody going to write an algorithm that suddenly causes companies to find staff without having to is there a Pandora for staffing? I'm not real concerned about that yet. Am I concerned that churches won't be able to meet for a year and a half and all of a sudden the economics change? Yeah, that would change things severely. But would that end the business, or would it put it into sort of an ice age hibernation that we would come out of later? I think probably the latter and not the former.
Laura, how about you? Have you thought about the possibility that the business might not survive this?
No, I haven't a ton, but here's why. And I finally realized why I'm not freaking out. We have been struggling for 3 years, ever since the flood that hit us and made us move in 2017. So it's been 3 years of struggle and being scared that the business was going to go away, thinking that we might close, and so I've been in battle for a really, really long time. So there's part of me that I think emotionally is either just beat down or numb or callous, or I'm just used to it.
You become a warrior. This is what happens. You become a warrior.
But let me just point out, Laura, for people who've been listening to the podcast, they'll recall that a couple of months ago, you were telling us that you and your husband, Doug, were on the edge.
Oh, my God. I've been on the edge for forever.
With the acquisition of the company in Texas, that was before any of this happened.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been years. I mean, really since the spring of 2016, when we let our general manager at the time go, and everything has just fallen apart. So it's been it's been 4 years of doubling my Prozac, trying to just figure it all out. So, I'm comfortable right now. I mean, we will figure it out. We're in a good spot right now. We've made the changes that we've needed to make. And so I'm not really worried about going away. We've been dealing with it for a long time.
Is there any particular thing that does concern you most?
I think it's what Lauren or what William was just talking about, and it is the emotional stress that is being put on our team. And so it's whether I'm going to be able to help lead, I guess, and have the empathy that I need to have. And just because I'm not freaking out doesn't mean other people aren't freaking out. And I'm trying to be very aware of that and conscious of that. And everybody, that's the biggest struggle for us right now, is that everybody's on edge, which I'm sure is very normal. But that's my biggest concern is, can we lead this team, and can we do it in a way that doesn't end up with people being horribly upset or bitter or miserable or whatever it is?
Jay, I interrupted you before. You were kind of giving us what sounded a little bit like the beginnings of a stress test for a business entering a crisis. What else is on your list? What else do you look at and thinking about?
I've never been in this. Like I said, I've lived through slowdowns, but I've never been to where the business was literally shut off for 6 weeks or even more. So I went through this in my head, and here's what I came up with. Number 3 is, do you have the will to go on? I have enough real estate, frankly. I could probably retire and be fine. I have absolutely no interest in going down to Florida, no offense to Florida, and playing pinochle and talking about my prostate with my friends. I have absolutely no desire to go do that, because I've seen the guys do that.
Good, because we have no desire to do that with you.
Yeah. So like, I'm as enthused today as I was 20 years ago. And so I plan on working for a long time. So the fourth one, which I don't think I have exposure to, and I don't think either of you two do either, are your people going to be there when the dust settles? And I believe that my people are 100% with me and are committed and will see us through this whole thing. And then lastly, this is the trickier one. What kind of resources do you have? Do you have cash? I don't have a whole lot of cash because I've always reinvested, but I do have buildings that, I have a building that doesn't have a mortgage on it, which gives me some credit. And I think that is going to be a defining thing for some businesses. Do you have any cash? Do you have any credit? Do you have any inventory? I mean, I'm sitting on enough inventory that, I could bleed off inventory for 6 months and be okay. So I'm not going anywhere. And, everything you need to know about business, you can learn from watching the Rocky movies. Rocky 2, having his head beat in, he sits in the corner and he looks up at Mickey after a bad round. And he just says, I ain't going down no more. So that's where I'm at.
How's your prostate?
My prostate's good.
Good.
I swear, I went out to lunch with someone and I was telling them this as we were leaving. The guys next to me, I swear to God, one guy said, I got to get an MRI on my prostate. I go, see what I'm talking about? I mean, that's what guys do when they sit around those big tables and you wonder what they're talking about. That's what they're talking about.
Mystery solved.
In one way or another, each of you kind of brought up the question of how long this lasts and how long you have to make it through. I mean, none of us knows, obviously. But are you thinking about that at all? William, are you planning for something? Are you thinking, in terms of, June, July, August, next year?
Well, I spend my day trying to connect with our clients. We're creating a lot of content, but connection trumps content right now. And I think that's a customer care lesson that I'm learning, and maybe it helps somebody out there today that, there's an innate desire among people to be with other people. It's just not good that we're alone. C.S. Lewis had a definition of hell. It said, hell is God's granting of our final wish to be left alone. And so I'm trying to connect with clients. And as I connect with them, invariably the question comes up, so when do you guys think you're going to be able to get together? And it varies by region, obviously, but it also varies by church size. I've got guys with a 5,000 seat auditorium. That's an entirely different situation than 200 on a Sunday.
I think I read something on the internet, William, that indicated you actually did help a church hire a pastor without meeting them in person. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, that's not quite 100%. They'd done some interviewing before this, but the congregation had not met, just the search committee. It was actually the oldest megachurch in the country, Moody Bible Church, which has been around a long time, very historic, lots of process. It's not a nimble startup. It's got some good calcification. It moves slowly. And they got down to their final guy, and COVID set in, and the search committee said, well, rather than wait, let's get this done. So he met the deacons and the deaconesses via Zoom. He did a virtual town hall. He preached virtually live on a Sunday to an empty room, but to the whole congregation so they could decide and vote whether he's the guy or not. Did that on a Zoom meeting, and I attended, and then did a Q&A, and then they used SurveyMonkey to vote. And it was pretty awesome. So the oldest megachurch in the country hired their newest pastor over Zoom. This is pretty good headline. But to answer your question, Lauren, a friend of mine wrote an article, and really Andy Crouch. It's a great article that talks about, is this a blizzard? Is this a long winter? or is this a mini ice age? And you got to figure that out and then adjust your business accordingly. So like cash reserves, we're built for a blizzard, no problem. We actually can withstand a long winter with cutting some costs and get through it. If it's a long ice age, it's a different proposition. And so polling people, what I'm hearing, and it changes every day, but the most recent things that I've heard is there are parts of the country that this may not be true, but church-wise, most everybody's hoping Father's Day can happen. And it may happen sooner in some parts, later in others. And so we're planning to have a really rough Q2 for sales, and we're planning for about a half load in Q3 and hopefully 3/4 load in Q4 of year over year. So if it's worse than that, and for some reason we decide to stay at home for a year and a half, then I think everybody's got to redesign their plans.
Laura, how are you thinking about how long this might last?
I'm kind of around the same. We actually had some in-person events scheduled, some retreats late June. We just decided to move that to late August. So we're hoping, and these are smaller, 50, 60 people kind of thing. But the customers are moving, they're switching the dates and they seem to be okay with it. Our biggest trade show is in early June and that just got canceled. So I think we're kind of thinking August-ish. And that things will pick up and be relatively back to normal in the fall.
Jay?
I have a different answer. I feel like we're in the cockpit. We're going through a horrendous storm, and I'm paying attention to the gauges and what's in front of me. I'm not thinking about 2 months from now because there's just nothing I can do about it. And if I watch the news, they've got all these pontificators that are making up stuff, and whoever says the most outrageous thing gets on. Oh, this is going to be worse than World War II combined. And it's like, it doesn't mean anything. So like I'm focused on what do I do today? What should I be doing for cash reserves? And I'm just seeing it the way it goes because I don't know if this is going on for another 3 weeks, another 3 months. I don't know. And it doesn't help any to be trying to guess because there's nothing I can do about it.
Well, same page, but I'm looking every day at like our cash flow and I'm looking at our forecasts and adjusting. And so right now, today, trying to predict, how much cash we're going to need over the next 6 to 8 months, that's where I'm at. Ask me again next week.
What are you going to do with that information, though? That's my question. What are you going to do with that information?
It's changing how we're spending things. It's changing. I'm giving budgets out to the different teams. I'm watching it in case I need to cut budgets even more, in case we're going to need to cut payroll, in case we need to cut down our ordering.
Jay, it's different because she's
got a business that's working.
Actually. Right, exactly.
Yeah,
she's operating.
That's true.
Thanks for reminding me that, Laura. Thanks.
You're welcome. That's what I'm here for.
Thanks for reminding me that you own your building, jerk.
Yeah, buildings, yes.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so it just shows you that everyone has assets and liabilities when this stuff happens, and I'm literally 90% of my people or more, 95% of my people are furloughed, and I'm not spending any money. So, and I have to tell you, in some weird way, I'm like on a manic high. I'm in the battle mode here. I've got good plans, and my people are coming up with stuff we're going to do as soon as we open. And I'm planning on sending a letter to a woman that I talked to 9 years ago who wanted to work for me, but she couldn't because she had a employment contract. And now I'm thinking, wonder if she's on furlough now. Talk about a game changer. So I just sent her a note because I couldn't find her phone number. Like I might be able to snag $1 million a year salesperson that I could have never hired before. So I'm just looking for opportunities to make lemonade out of lemons.
Well, that's a good point. Opportunities. Jay and I have actually been talking offline about us looking into now buying a building.
And you're going to get a really good deal at an incredibly cheap interest rate. Yep.
So I've been researching, finding some buildings, looking at, when do we think the commercial real estate market is going to hit bottom? So kind of studying the 2008, 2009 thing.
Laura, do you even know how difficult it is to buy a building right now? Are commercial realtors operating?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the guy that lives across the street from us, actually, he runs an escrow company, and he just said everything has dropped out, like nothing's going through because of all the uncertainty. And I'm not looking to buy something. We don't want to buy something today. But again, this goes back to I'm trying to think about 6 months from now. So starting to put my feet in the water, starting to kind of look around, starting to track rates, starting to track prices.
I can give you a real story. 2008, the real estate market was completely decimated. Nobody was doing anything. I looked at an 85,000 foot building to move my warehouse and factory to, and the price kept dropping. Deal of the century would have never happened without the crash of 2008. I ended up with a 85,000 foot building with 27 foot high ceilings and 3 loading dock doors. It was a game changer. And I wouldn't have bought that building if I didn't live through the crash of 2008.
What's your real estate situation, William? I assume you have a landlord?
We do have a landlord. We were actually at the beginning of the year starting to talk about downsizing our space here in Houston so that we could have regional offices, probably in like a WeWorks or that sort of thing, in about 5 other markets. And that's still going to happen. It's just been put on pause. But it's been really cool because we've been working remote policies for the last year to say, how would we work if we didn't have an office? So in the middle of shrinking that up back in January, we were like, if we found a subtenant for half of our space, we have about 15,000 feet, not a lot. We don't have manufacturing or anything. And we shrunk it down where we have 5, they have 5, and we share 5. And we had put in their buyout clauses. They're growing very fast, oil and gas company that actually will grow through this. And we had hoped that they would actually buy us out so we could go buy a building, kind of take a note from Jay and just own my property rather than pay for someone else's mortgage. And so that's still in play. And if we get, in fact, I just told our lead team, if we get out of our lease now, which may happen since we have a cash strong subtenant that may want to make their own move, that'd be fine. And we can just stay virtual till everybody goes back to work and then figure out what to buy. So we're kind of in this weird no man's land, and we're figuring it out one day at a time.
You have to realize my percentage of occupancy costs are 5 times what Williams would be. I have a factory. I've got showrooms. The rent is a major expense of mine, and it isn't in his case. So for me, it's a game changer. For him, it would be nice and worth doing, but it wouldn't be the thing that, in 20 years says, oh, thank God I bought the building.
I just love the fact that Williams' recruiting service for churches is sharing office space with an oil and gas company. If anybody was wondering, yes, you are based in Houston.
Oh, Lauren, it's even better than that. It's an oil and gas company. They do software for midstream, like the shipping of the product after it's out of the ground, and they're based out of Israel. And so they're all strong, practicing Jewish people. Wonderful.
I knew that was coming. I said, I saw that coming.
It's just an amazing coexistence that people would think that can't happen.
You guys need to merge.
There you go.
yeah, do recruiting for them.
All right, we're almost out of time. Real quickly, you all sound like you're doing pretty well, but I'd like to go around to each of you and ask you, maybe you have a tip. I mean, just dealing with the isolation, with the sheltering at home aspect. William, how about you? How are you coping?
So we have 7 children, 2 of whom are out of the house, 5 here. And one's in college. My wife is now a university professor and a high school instructor and a middle school instructor and an elementary instructor and running a house. And she could run the military. She can build a routine that works and scales. And she has built a routine and a schedule for us. And I am amazed at how much routine actually liberates you rather than enslaves you. It's made sense out of the days where we've got good friends that own solid businesses that are kind of streaming Netflix and wondering what to do next and waiting on what's to happen. And the one thing that I've had all the children do every night before bed, make your list of 6, I stretch it to 7, accomplishments you want to finish tomorrow for your work. For me, it's 7 items that have to get done. And it just, even if we don't get a contract in or nothing good happens, I go to bed at night knowing I followed a routine and I got 7 things done.
Let me piggyback on that real quick. What I have done and what has changed for me and has helped a lot is a twist on what William's talking about. And that is, all of us working from home are writing up a daily status report, and it's like 20 items of everything that we did. So, today I'll have my punch list of the stuff I want to get done, but then on the opposite page of my journal, I'm keeping notes of everything, every conversation that I have, everything that I do, so that at the end of the day, even if I feel like I got nothing done, I can look back and have a record of everything that I did get done. And that's helped a lot.
Jay, even through Skype, I can hear you climbing the walls. How are you dealing with that manic energy?
It's actually not. I woke up in the middle of the night not worrying because my brain's going. I got some ideas I want to work out. And I can only tell you, my older sister sent me a text the other day and she goes, I'm really losing it. I'm depressed. I went out to the grocery store. It's depressing. And I texted her back and I said, our father at 19 years old went off to go through 20 bombing missions over Germany for 3 years. And every time he went up, he wasn't sure he was going to live through it. We can handle this. And she goes, you're right. Everybody needs some perspective here. You know what? Everyone's going back to their homes. They're in the house. They're not in a foxhole. They're not getting shot at. Really, let's get some perspective here. This isn't the worst thing in the world. It's stressful. The thing you were just talking about, William, I do it at night. That's exactly what I did. I happened to have 7 things last night. And it feels good to go to sleep. I wrote them all down, cleared my brain until I woke up with my new idea. But yeah, it's a good thing. Like, get in the battle.
I learned it years ago, Jay, from a banker that was in my church, and his bank used to hand out, if you can go this far back in time, the little day planners. You remember
I use one. What do you mean? Thanks, man.
It's 2 inches.
You forgot who you're talking to, William.
I've got a day timer.
He said, I make my list of 7 things every day. And he had like 25 years archived. So he could go back and look and see, what was my list back? This is before the cloud or whatever. And I was like, now that's impressive. I want to try and mimic that.
7 instead of 3. I just always hear 3. 7 sounds like so many.
I don't know. Maybe it's a biblical thing, Laura.
Oh.
Or an obsessive thing.
If I started listing the things I have to do tomorrow right before I went to bed, I would never fall asleep.
Yeah, that's...
We're going to have to stop it here. My thanks to Jay Goltz, William Vanderblumen, and Laura Zander. Be careful out there, everybody. Thanks for listening, everybody. This episode was produced by Jess Thuberon, founder of Blank Word Productions. Remember, we started the 21 Hats podcast to help business owners feel a little less isolated, to let them know they aren't the only ones fighting these battles. If you got something out of this conversation, please help us reach more people. Tell a friend, subscribe and review us wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Twitter at 21_hats. And let me know if you have a question or a comment or a topic you'd like us to cover. My email address is lfeldman@21hats.com. See you next time.